trying to tell you what to do.
What's going on, Bleach Tards? It's Corey from SuperKamiGuru9000, and welcome to my review of Bleach, Chapter 477. Holy crap! Did you guys read One Piece this week? It was insane! There was freaking ice and fire and ice and fire! It was freaking crazy! It was awesome! But we're gonna talk about Bleach. It was nothing, a bunch of sword slashes. This wasn't a very good chapter of Bleach. But it did have some good stuff at the end of the chapter. But let's just go ahead and talk about the first, well, 13 pages. It was nothing but sword slashing. And that confuses me a lot, because at the end of the last chapter, it looked like that Ginjo was hit by a really big attack. But in this one, he just seemingly falls to the ground. He's like, screw that, I'm going to keep going. And he starts doing this. I'm really just illustrating what I read, guys. That's it. Sword slashing. The story in this chapter actually doesn't begin until page 16, which sucks because the chapter is pretty much over at this point. But it is something kind of interesting. We can now see that Ginjo has officially been defeated. He's on the ground, his sword has been cut in half, and frankly, he sucks at life. He just can't continue anymore. And then all of a sudden, randomly, Tsukishima just appears right behind Ichigo. So apparently, he survived his battle with Byakuya. But again, another unexpected turn of events. Rukia just jumps in front. And by the way, I know I'm explaining this really fast, but there's no dialogue when this is going on. It's just panel, panel, cool shot, panel, hair blowing in the wind, panel. That's pretty much what's going on here. But anyway, Rukia jumps in, and then her chest opens up. Yeah, I know what you mean. And Ruruka just sort of pops out. And she takes the blunt of the sword coming from Tsukishima. And he is actually using a real sword this time. He's not using his whole, I'm going to change your past sword. He actually does cut right into Rukia. And she's really shocked by this, but he doesn't really give a shit. He like starts freaking out, and this is probably the best part of the chapter. And this is something I've talked about Kubo before. I like the way he draws people when they're really, really pissed off or angry. And I like his word dialogue bubbles, actually. They look hilarious, because you can tell that Tsukishima's just freaking out right now. And he sees Ginjo over on the ground, and he's like, Why? Why? What's going on? Holy shit! And that's pretty much where the chapter comes to a close. We start to segue into a flashback at the end. We can pretty much see here that Ginjo and Tsukishima were living in Soul Society at some point, and that's where the chapter comes to a close. Ruruka's hot body couldn't even save this week's chapter, and, you know, it just... I want to say that this hasn't been the best arc in the series, but it has done some things I liked. I will say this, Kubo's art style, his character art anyway, is getting a lot better. And that's really the good thing here, but he can't do backgrounds, I'm sorry. Maybe that's just because of the setting of what's going on here. But the battle itself just really wasn't all that interesting. I mean, like I said, it was just a bunch of, sword slashes left and right, left and right. No signature techniques or anything, and I was kind of hoping that Ginjo would release some sort of super mega form and go up against Ichigo, but that doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon. The biggest surprise obviously came from when Rukia came out and Ruruka just popped out of her chest, which is weird to say. But I guess this explains what really happened to her when she was using that weird love gun ability. And, Tsukishima's an asshole. He doesn't give a shit about Ruruka. He just tosses her aside and all he cares about is Ginjo. And, obviously we're about to get into their backstory, so maybe the next couple chapters will give us something interesting. But if this is really the end for these Fullbring guys, this is just really disappointing. I was hoping for a lot more. They get a lot of points in the fact that they have some really well-developed tragic pasts, but what anime character doesn't have a, fucked up, past? This is some stuff I've seen before in other shonen series, and in a bunch of other anime and manga series anyway, so... uninteresting action, barely any story development. This is a 6 out of a 10. This is one of the worst chapters I've read, actually, in this arc. It just felt too rushed, and there was barely any dialogue. So, but, it can only go up from here. There's still a lot of things we haven't seen, especially the Squad Zero stuff in Soul Society, so maybe they'll go from there after this. But let's just see how quickly we can get through the end of this Fullbring arc. So this arc is wrapping up, and I want to ask you guys a question about it. Where do you think they're actually going to go when they finish up this one? Personally, I think they're going to go ahead and go to the Squad Zero. Maybe they'll shed a little bit of light of what's going on with Ichigo's dad, Isen. You can let me know with your comments below. And if you just want to let me know what you thought about this week's abysmal chapter, you can let me know in your comments below as well.
SuperKamiGuru9000 out. Thumbs up or die.
SuperKamiGuru9000 out.